Kim Jiho, an earnest and hard-working assistant, never imagined his quiet life would lead him to the hectic world of showbiz. Tasked with managing the chaotic schedule of Choi Minseok, one of South Korea's biggest idols, Jiho entered the job with a mix of trepidation and determination. On his first day, Jiho quickly learned that working for a celebrity was far from glamorous. Minseok barely acknowledged him, his attention consumed by rehearsals, fan events, and the endless demands of fame. Jiho told himself to stay professional, but everything changed when he accidentally spilled coffee all over Minseok's lyrics sheet. The room froze. Jiho panicked, bowing repeatedly. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." Minseok's eyes darted to the ruined paper, then back to Jiho's pale face. Instead of lashing out, he smiled. "Relax, it's just paper. Don't faint on me." That moment, Jiho saw a glimpse of someone different from the distant idol. Someone human. It was the first crack in the walls between them, but neither of them knew how much their worlds would collide. Weeks passed, and Jiho found himself noticing the little things about Minseok, the way his smile seemed genuine when he wasn't performing, the way he hummed quietly between rehearsals. Meanwhile, Minseok began to rely on Jiho's calm presence in the chaos of fame. Late one night, after a grueling schedule, Minseok found Jiho dozing off in the dressing room, his head resting against the desk. Minseok smiled to himself and draped his jacket over Jiho's shoulders before sitting nearby. "Why do you work so hard?" Minseok murmured, even though Jiho couldn't hear him. "Don't you know people like you are rare?" When Jiho woke and found Minseok's jacket, his heart skipped a beat. He told himself it was nothing, but a warmth lingered long after. The harmony between them didn't last long. Kang Woo-jin, Minseok's charismatic stylist, took a liking to Jiho. Woo-jin was all smiles and teasing remarks, and Jiho, unsure how to handle his flirtation, often turned bright red. During a lunch break, Woo-jin sat too close to Jiho, leaning in to whisper something that made Jiho laugh nervously. Across the room, Minseok watched, his jaw clenched and his fingers tapping against the table. Later that evening, Minseok cornered Jiho in the hallway. "You seem to enjoy Woo-jin's attention," he said, his voice sharp. Jiho blinked, confused. "He's just being friendly." "Friendly?" Minseok scoffed, stepping closer. "He's practically hanging all over you, and you don't seem to mind." Jiho frowned. "Why does it matter to you? You've never cared about what I do before." Minseok's frustration flared. "Because it does matter," he snapped, before storming off, leaving Jiho bewildered and hurt. Days passed in awkward silence. Jiho avoided Minseok, unsure how to navigate the sudden tension. But one evening, after a late-night rehearsal, Minseok found Jiho sitting on the rooftop, gazing at the stars. "Running away again?" Minseok asked, his voice softer this time. Jiho looked up, startled. "I wasn't." Minseok sat beside him, his shoulder brushing against Jiho's. For a moment, they sat in silence, the city lights twinkling below. "I don't like seeing you with Woo-jin," Minseok admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Jiho's heart skipped a beat. "Why?" Minseok hesitated, then turned to him, his eyes earnest. "Because it drives me crazy. I think I'm falling for you, Jiho." Jiho froze, his chest tightening. "Minseok, Minseok reached out, his fingers brushing against Jiho's. "You don't have to say anything. Just, don't push me away." Jiho's heart raced as he nodded, the vulnerability in Minseok's eyes stirring something deep within him. Their fragile connection was soon tested. During a press event, Jiho overheard Minseok joking with a female celebrity, his laughter loud and carefree. Jiho felt a pang of jealousy he couldn't explain. Later, he saw a photo of Minseok and the woman circulating online, the caption suggesting a romantic connection. Jiho tried to brush it off, but the insecurity gnawed at him. When Minseok noticed Jiho's cold demeanor, he confronted him. "Why are you avoiding me?" Minseok asked, his frustration evident. Jiho crossed his arms, looking away. I didn't realize you were so close with Yuna. Minseok blinked, caught off guard. Yuna? You mean the actress? What does she have to do with anything? Jiho's voice rose slightly, his jealousy spilling over. I saw the photos, Minseok. You two looked close. Minseok's brows furrowed, then he let out a sharp laugh, but it lacked humor. Are you serious right now? You think I have something going on with her? Well, don't you? Jiho snapped, surprising even himself with his tone. Minseok took a step closer, his voice dropping dangerously low. No, Jiho. I don't. But it's nice to know how little you think of me. Jiho felt his chest tighten, guilt already creeping in. I didn't mean it like that. Then what did you mean? Minseok cut him off, his frustration boiling over. You don't trust me? Or do you just like pushing me away? Jiho struggled to find the right words, but before he could speak, Minseok turned on his heel. I can't deal with this right now, he said, his voice trembling with anger. As he walked away, Jiho felt tears sting his eyes, his heart sinking at the thought that he might have just ruined everything. In the days that followed, their interactions were strained. Jiho avoided Minseok, unable to face the guilt of their fight. Minseok, on the other hand, threw himself into work, his usual charm replaced by a cold edge that unsettled everyone around him. The tension reached a breaking point during a concert rehearsal. Minseok snapped at Jiho over a small mistake, his voice harsh enough to make the rest of the staff flinch. Do I have to do everything myself? Minseok barked. Jiho's lips pressed into a thin line, his voice shaking as he replied, I'm doing my best. Clearly, your best isn't good enough, Minseok shot back, his words like a slap to the face. Jiho's hands balled into fists, but he didn't retaliate. Instead, he walked out of the rehearsal room, ignoring the curious stares of the staff. Minseok's anger quickly gave way to regret as he watched Jiho leave. He wanted to call him back, to apologize, but his pride wouldn't let him. Jiho didn't return to work the next day, or the day after that. Minseok told himself he didn't care, but the emptiness he felt said otherwise. Finally, after 3 days of silence, Minseok showed up at Jiho's apartment. He banged on the door until Jiho reluctantly opened it, his eyes red and tired. What do you want? Jiho asked, his voice flat. Minseok hesitated, his usual confidence faltering. To talk. Jiho crossed his arms, leaning against the doorframe. About what? How I'm not good enough. Minseok winced. I didn't mean what I said. I was angry, and I took it out on you. I'm sorry. Jiho's gaze softened, but his walls remained up. Why are you really here, Minseok? Minseok stepped closer, his voice quiet but firm. Because I can't do this without you. You're the only one who makes this crazy world bearable. Jiho's heart ached at the vulnerability in Minseok's eyes. You hurt me, he admitted, his voice breaking. I know, Minseok whispered. And I hate myself for it. But please, Jiho, don't give up on me. Jiho hesitated, but when Minseok reached for his hand, he didn't pull away. Instead, he let himself be drawn into Minseok's arms, their embrace filled with unspoken apologies and a desperate need for each other. Though their relationship was far from perfect, they began to rebuild. Late nights turned into secret rendezvous, stolen kisses, and whispered confessions. One night, after a concert, Minseok pulled Jiho into an empty dressing room. I've missed you all day, he murmured, his fingers brushing against Jiho's cheek. Jiho blushed, his heart racing. We're going to get caught if you keep doing this. Minseok smirked, leaning in until their foreheads touched. Let them catch us. I don't care anymore. Before Jiho could protest, Minseok kissed him, slow and tender at first, then deeper, more passionate. Jiho melted into the embrace, his fingers curling into Minseok's shirt as the rest of the world faded away. When they finally pulled apart, both of them breathless, Minseok smiled. You have no idea how much I need you. Jiho's heart swelled, and for the first time, he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could make this work. The agency was relentless after the leaked photo of Minseok and Jiho together spread like wildfire. Minseok was summoned into a cold, sterile meeting room where the executives sat with their piercing gazes. Jiho wasn't allowed in the room, but he stood outside, pacing nervously. This relationship is unacceptable, the agency's CEO declared. You'll issue a public statement denying the rumors, and Jiho will be reassigned, or fired if necessary. Minseok slammed his fist on the table, startling everyone. I'm not doing that. I'm not denying anything. And Jiho isn't going anywhere. The CEO's voice was like ice. If you refuse, we'll terminate your contract. Say goodbye to your career. Minseok stood, his chest heaving. You think I care about your rules? I've given everything to this industry. And what's left for me if I lose the person who makes it all bearable? The room fell silent, but Minseok had already made up his mind. He stormed out, finding Jiho waiting nervously in the hallway. What happened? Jiho asked, his voice shaking. Minseok grabbed Jiho's hand, pulling him away from the building. We're leaving. I'm done letting them control my life. Jiho's eyes widened. What do you mean? You can't just walk away from your career. Minseok turned to him, his expression fierce but tender. What's the point of fame if I can't be with you? I don't want to hide anymore, Jiho. I'm done pretending. Jiho's heart swelled with both fear and love. He knew what Minseok was risking, and it terrified him, but the sincerity in his voice was undeniable. Minseok's defiance set the entertainment industry on fire. News outlets plastered headlines about his rebellious decision, and social media buzzed with both support and backlash. The agency released a statement condemning his actions, but Minseok took to his own platforms, posting a heartfelt message. I've lived my life in the spotlight, but I've always felt alone, until I met Jiho. He's the reason I wake up every morning. I'm not ashamed of loving someone, and I refuse to hide it anymore. I'd rather lose everything than lose him. The post went viral, dividing fans and critics. Jiho, however, remained in the shadows, reluctant to speak out. He feared the backlash and worried about how Minseok was handling the fallout. One night, Minseok showed up at Jiho's apartment, visibly drained but smiling. I'm still standing, he said softly, wrapping Jiho in a tight embrace. And I'll keep standing, as long as you're by my side. Jiho's resolve finally broke. He clung to Minseok, tears spilling down his cheeks. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve you. Minseok cupped Jiho's face, forcing him to meet his gaze. You deserve everything, Jiho. Don't ever doubt that. Despite their growing bond, cracks began to form as the stress of their situation took its toll. Minseok's schedule remained grueling, and Jiho often felt like he was being left behind. One evening, Jiho attended a gathering with Woo Jin, who insisted he needed a distraction from all the drama. Minseok arrived later, only to find Jiho laughing with Woo Jin, their heads close together. A dark cloud settled over Minseok's expression as he marched toward them. Having fun without me, he said, his tone biting. Jiho turned, startled by the coldness in Minseok's voice. You're late. Woo Jin was just keeping me company. Looks like he's doing a great job, Minseok snapped, his jealousy flaring. Woo Jin raised his hands defensively. Relax, Minseok. I was just. Save it, Minseok interrupted, grabbing Jiho's wrist. We're leaving. Jiho resisted, his own frustration bubbling over. Stop acting like you own me. I can't just sit around waiting for you all the time, Minseok. The word stung, and Minseok let go, his expression wounded. Is that what you think? That I don't care about you? Jiho's voice softened, guilt creeping in. I know you care, But sometimes, it feels like I'm just another thing you have to manage. Minseok clenched his fists, struggling to find the right words. You're not a thing, Jiho. You're everything to me. I don't know how to show it sometimes. The tension between them hung heavy, but Jiho reached out, his hand brushing against Minseok's. Then let's figure it out together. Don't shut me out. Minseok nodded, his anger fading into determination. I won't. I promise. As the months went by, the pressure on their relationship only grew. The public scrutiny, the constant rumors, and the demands of Minseok's career began to weigh heavily on both of them. One night, after a particularly grueling argument, Jiho made a painful decision. Maybe we're better off apart, he said, his voice barely audible. Minseok stared at him, disbelief etched across his face. You don't mean that. I do, Jiho lied, his heart shattering with every word. I can't keep doing this, Minseok. I can't be the reason you lose everything. Minseok's hands trembled as he reached for Jiho, but Jiho stepped back, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry. Minseok watched helplessly as Jiho walked out of his life, leaving him in the dark for the first time in years. Time passed, and both men tried to move on, but neither could truly forget. Jiho threw himself into work, while Minseok's performances lost their spark. Fans began to notice the change, and rumors swirled that he was planning to retire. One night, Minseok performed a song he had written in secret, a raw, emotional ballad about love and loss. Jiho, watching from the shadows of the crowd, felt his heart break all over again. After the performance, Minseok caught sight of Jiho leaving the venue. He ran after him, ignoring the cameras and the crowd. Jiho, he called out, his voice desperate. Jiho froze, turning slowly. What are you doing? Minseok didn't hesitate. He closed the distance between them, cupping Jiho's face. I've tried living without you, and it's unbearable. I don't care what anyone says or what I lose. I need you. Jiho's defenses crumbled as tears streamed down his face. I thought I was protecting you by leaving. Minseok shook his head. The only thing I need protection from is a life without you. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, and for the first time in months, everything felt right. Minseok and Jiho faced the world hand in hand, refusing to hide their love any longer. Though the road ahead was uncertain, they knew that as long as they had each other, they could weather any storm. Their story became one of resilience and hope, a reminder that true love, even in the harshest spotlight, was worth fighting for.